Hey friend, my name is Matthew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more. And I'm going to be playing on my FM3 today, starting a little bit of a new series. A series that's going to be like getting a preset gig ready. And really getting the tones together is only about half the battle. Yes, they need to sound great and appropriate for the music you're playing, but you also need to make the preset functional, meaning you can efficiently get from tone to tone as needed. And that's actually going to look different on different devices, FM3, FM9, FX3. So that's why I'm going to be doing this in a little bit of a mini series. I'm going to take this preset that I've built and apply it to the FM3 with just the 3 switches. Then I'm going to do the FM3 with a little switcher like this to give us a little bit more functionality on these 2 switches. Then I'm going to be doing the FM9, which would also work with like an FM3 with an FC6. And then I'm going to do the FX3 with just an FC6 because that's what I have here in my studio. And I might explore some other like digital switching options, maybe something with a DAW as well, where the DAW is taking care of all of our switching. And you can let me know if there's something else you want me to expand on going through this mini-series. So let me go ahead and dive into the preset here. I'm going to kind of blow through the tones pretty quickly so that we can get to the functionality of it, but let me give you a general overview. This preset started life as my JTM45 template in my template packs that you can find over on my Patreon. I'll link those in the description box below. I made a couple of different changes to it just to make it a little more gig ready for like louder environments and everything. So I did change the cab block out. I'm using the Friedman V30s, which I find to be a little bit tighter in the bottom end than a greenback. And I also moved my preamp filters outside of my general cuts, 80 hertz and 8,000 hertz to 100 hertz and 5,500 hertz to kind of keep it in a little bit more of a gig-friendly spectrum, if you will. And then I also made a little bit of a different change on the drive channel where the gain is up at about 5.5, and then I'm doing more cuts in the low end, because this is a pretty bass-heavy amplifier. More cuts in the low end at 2,500, and then I brought the high cut down to 6,500. And reverb stayed the same. Recording Studio A just for a little splash of ambience, and this is what it sounds like. Here it is, neck pickup on my 594 split. Nice and jangly. And then let's go to the drive channel, channel B, and play a little bit of this crunch sound. For some light overdrive. Now, the only other thing that I'm really going to add to this for my overall general amp tones is a little bit of light post compression. This is also in my block library. This is just light post brought up at the settings that I already have it set to. You can find this block library for free at matthewdale.com/blocks. And this just overall enhances the amp tones in a really pleasing way. Let's go back, and I'll turn it back on the clean side of things. You can see it's really going to bring out those single notes. And makes it feel a little bit better under the fingers. Same thing with the drive. I'm going to go back to my bridge pickup. And it just sort of glues everything together in a really nice fashion. So whenever I'm doing this type of gig, cover band gig, I need to cover, a not necessarily a lot of different guitar tones, but a good spectrum of gain. So I need clean, I need crunch, I need drive, and a little bit of some different stuff in between. So I've actually paired each amp channel with its own drive. So clean, I've got, and they're both exotic effects, and I really love the way that these models sound in the Fractal ecosystem. On the clean channel, I'm using the RC booster. Gain's pretty low, level is boosting the front end of the amp, just to give me a little bit of an added oomph. Sounds good in single, sounds really good in humbucker too. And then if I actually go to bridge pickup, I can get a little bit of crunch out of this. So there's a lot of good texture, texture versatility out of just the clean channel. And then if I go over to the drive channel, here it is on the bridge pickup again. This time it's the BB preamp, gains a little bit hotter, and a little bit of work on the EQ just to sort of tighten things up a little bit. So that'll kind of take care of some of the thicker drive tones for me. And I've also got a delay, just a mono delay, and a filter just to accomplish some like lead boosting, a little bit of a level lift. We'll hear more of that stuff later. And I've also got a phaser that's good to put on just for something a little bit swirly. For this style of just like a straight-ahead rock gig or something, I don't always need a bunch of effects. Maybe one swirly type of effect, maybe two. I could probably add one to this preset if we wanted to a little bit later on. But here's what I have on the phaser. This is the FAS Vibe. This is nearly at stock settings. All I really did is bring the rate down a little bit, just for a little bit of a slower pulse, and it gives me this. So really good for those Hendrix-style tones, and I like that a lot. And of course, we can also apply that to the drive channel as well. But let's get on with how to make this a functional preset on the FM3. So we're going to talk about our three switches here. And this is actually probably the most challenging setting for this sort of thing, because we just have the three switches available to us. And I'm going to bring up layout 5. I'm going to have this preset, just as an aside, I'm going to have this preset available for free up on my Patreon with the preset itself and the layout. If you go to pull in this layout for yourself, make sure you are going into layout 5 so that all of the per preset overrides will go into their correct spot. So anyway, this is probably the more challenging of all of these different setups. It's going to feel like crazy easy on the FM9 with all the switches we have available to us, and we can do so much more. But really, I want to get the most functionality, not always the most flexibility, but the most functionality out of the three switches on the FM3. I don't want to do a lot of press and hold or a back button or, anything like that is just going to slow up my performance. I really want to hit a pedal and have the tone that I need. That's the ultimate goal of this. So I'm going to bring in a couple of per preset overrides, and I'm going to make these happen here. Let's start with the way that I have the amp is I'm basically treating it like a two-channel amp. Channel A and Channel B, one's clean, one's dirty. And I am going to have that change channel here. Actually, I'm doing this by scenes. I should actually be very clear about this because I need the scenes functionality to do a couple of things. It's not only changing the amp channel, but my scenes are also changing my drive channels to pair different drives with different amp channels. The phaser can be in scene ignore. I want that to happen. This is going to be on all the time, so I don't need to worry about that too much. And let's see, this is also, the reverb is going to be on all the time, so I don't need to worry about that, and that should be okay. So let's go back to our per preset overrides. The scenes functionality is going to primarily change my amp, my drive tone. And I'm going to use the toggle feature for this. My primary scene is going to be scene number 2. And then the secondary is going to be scene number 1, and you will see why here in a second. I'm also going to do a custom name, and I'm just going to call this amp. It's like my amp switch. And let's go ahead and make it in red, because usually if we have like the old school amp foot switch, usually you hit the light on for red, you know that's your drive channel. So back on FC Edit, I'm going to pull in this override. And now here's what I have. It says amp, and down at my feet, you can't really see this. I'm going to have this on the screen just so to give you a visual representation. But on the clean side of things, my switch says amp and the red light is not on. And then when I hit the red light on, or when I hit the amp switch on, the red light comes on. So it's acting very much like an amp switch. I kind of like the way this function and the way this works. And I think it is very intuitive. Let's go ahead and do another one on per preset 2. I'm just going to get in the overrides here. Per preset 2, per preset 3. For per preset 2, I want the drive pedal to be in this middle foot switch. And let's go to effect bypass. This is drive number 1. Again, I'm going to do a custom name. I like my custom names. And I'm just going to call this drive, my drive pedal. Let's do an orange, like a classic Boss DS1 color. And then number 3 is going to be my lead boost. And I'll show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this on a control switch, latching, CS1, and again, I want to label the function. And it's going to be my lead. Let's actually go back to here and assign CS1 to some stuff. So I am going to assign CS1 to the filter bypass. Control switch 1. And I need to flip these guys around. So when the switch is on, I don't want it to be bypassed. I want it to be engaged when I turn the switch on. And same thing here with the delay. So my lead boost is going to give me a little bit of added delay and a little bit of a level lift. And CS1, flop these guys around again, and back. So now back to FC Edit. Here's my basic controls. And let me go ahead and play through these. So in middle humbucker, with the volumes on, there's my clean tone. There's the amp switch, back down. That's clean with the drive engaged. And then here is I'm going to do a little single coil neck on this. And that gives me actually a really nice, like, clean boost with this added delay. A couple of things to note. 1, 2 might be good. It might be enough. 2BD of level. We'll address that a little bit later. But I've also made this delay. I'm just using the Deluxe Mind Guy, and I'm not even doing really like a rhythmic delay sort of thing. It's just an atmospheric delay, so I'm going around 350 milliseconds-ish, somewhere around there. But I like the benefit of the clarity of a stereo delay. And you can get that very easily in a mono delay by using right post delay up to 10 milliseconds. You can really hear, if I play this chord, the delay repeats are to the outside. So that's a really nice benefit of stereo effects or stereo delays. You can keep your guitar tone here, your effects out to the side. But I also wanted this to be mono-friendly for the sake of gigging. And this is a really good way to do this. One, you're not going to be messing around with, like, do I mono some? Do I do half stereo? Which, by the way, just leaving your preset in stereo and just plugging one of your main outputs left or right will actually be a good way to do this. That 90% of the time, that'll be just fine. you don't really, especially if you're using something like a 2290 delay that has the phase reversal stuff, combining that, doing a sum mono, you'll lose your delay repeats. So you don't want to do that. Having this deluxe mine guy and doing this little stereo trick with the right post delay also ensures that if you need to go mono, you are not going to be screwing things up when you plug in. Your tones aren't going to change that much. So now what about this phaser? Let's go back into FC Edit or FC per preset. I'm also not going to do this pink. Let's do white on here. And then I'm also going to go back to my drive. And let's put the phaser, because the phaser I'm not always doing as like, hit the phaser on and immediately go into a part like you would, a drive pedal or an amp switch or a lead, boost or something like that. Those are all very immediate actions. I don't need the phaser to be an immediate action. I can use a hold function, and we'll select the bypass here, and we'll go to the phaser 1, and I'll also do this as a custom name, so that way when I hold this pedal down, it'll say vibe. Vibe. And now, back to my switches here. So I've got amp, drive, and vibe in lead, and my lead's on right now. Here's my vibe. Vibe, because a scene ignore will stay on if I switch amp channels. And I can turn it off. Here we got big lead. For your big lead type of tones. I'm going to turn all those off. And that's what I would do with the switching. I might do one more thing, although this is something that you probably want to be careful with. I might put my tuner, just so that I have quick access to this, I might put the tuner on the hold function of the amp switch. And I say you might want to be careful with this because if you do, I wouldn't put it on the lead switch. And here's why. You're getting ready for your lead. You go to hit your foot switch. You take a little bit too much time on that foot switch, and all of a sudden your volume goes away. That might be less of an issue if you put it on the amp switch. And sometimes, if I'm being honest, I just leave the tuner off, and I just use the tuner button on the top of the FM3, because if I'm just playing in standard tuning the whole night, I'm not really tuning all that much. But if you wanted to, I would probably put the tuner here on the amp switch, just so it's also very quickly at your feet. Let's talk about the next thing that's also going to make this very functional for a gig. We're going to assign various parameters to our perform pages. And the amp parameters, for me, are kind of set and forget. This is probably a very opinionated sort of thing, but when I get my level clean here with the amp and the cab and the compressor here, all of this stuff for me is fairly set and forget. So, and also take a look at my preset leveling tool. All of these four different textures of gain, clean with boost, drive with boost, are all roughly right around that same mark, 0 on it's right around unity gain on my output 1. So I kind of want to leave them there. My lead boost will jump them up for my lead, and I still have plenty of headroom. So my amp level is not necessarily something, if I'm going direct, that I'm ever really going to change going into a gig. So I can afford to leave that off. You might want to include your gain, maybe your amp EQ, but I usually don't. If I need to get in there to edit something, it's usually a lot more rare than other parameters, like my drive parameters. So if you do need to get in there, just double tap the A button. It'll take you directly to the amp block, and you can edit things there. I'm going to put my drive parameters on here. And one of the nice things about staying with a central ecosystem for your drives, like the exotic effect ones in here, is my gain, my bass, my treble and my level are going to update from drive to drive. Other drives will do this as well. It's just very symmetric because the exotic effects are always, based around that very same 4-knob circuit. I could even, I guess, if I wanted to, arrange them in that 4-knob configuration, but I'm not going to do that. So you can see this is the RC booster, and then everything updates when I switch channels to the BB preamp, and then I can make the appropriate edits there for each of my scenes, but for each of the pedals. And the next thing that I would probably want to do is for sure the filter. That's going to be, if I need more boost, if I need more clean boost, I'm going to put that up here. And I'm going to label this boost. So that way, if 2 dB isn't enough, I can throw it up to 3, 3.5, whatever you might do. I'm probably also going to include the effect mix of my phaser and the rate of the phaser. That way I can make just some very quick edits there. And same thing with the delay. So right now my delay is set to about 10%. I might include the mix there. And I also might adjust the time as well. So I've got delay mix, delay time. I still have one more free. So technically I could include the reverb mix. That might be something that you might want to do. Although this is already adjustable in the effect mixing page of our setup menu. It's reverb mix. So this 15% can be adjusted 100% one way, or 50% one way, I guess I should say, and 50% the other way. And that's usually good enough for a gig. And you can kind of hear. So if I actually play this, there's a little bit, that splash of verb. Here's drier. And here's wetter. So I don't need to take up a space for my reverb mix because I can do it on a global parameter. And this is something that I have available to me. I'm trying to get it right at 100%. Something that I have available on my other global performance controls. There's my global reverb mix. And I also have the global effects mix. This is a little bit confusing, but let me go to the phaser. Rather than actually assign the mix to one of these spaces here, I can actually just hit this GBL, this global button, and that will assign this mix to my global effects mix parameter. So you can do that as well. I'm just doing it to be more like a pedal board in this situation. So this keeps everything that I need to function on a gig at my fingertips and right at my feet. I'm not doing a lot of press and holding, really just, one of those, maybe 2 of those if I need my tuner, whatever. All of my important parameters are really close at hand with the per preset performance pages. It's a lot of words in there. But those parameters, those important parameters are really close. Next time, I'm going to add a little bit of functionality with this guy. And let me know if you want me to add some more to this preset. I've still got plenty of CPU. I'm at 61%. Honestly, this is all I really need when I'm doing a straight-ahead rock gig. But if you do want me to add some more stuff to it, let me know, and we can add it in the next video of the series, and I will see you there. My name is Matthew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, understand more. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.